Minnesota made national news on Super Tuesday when Democrats voted uncommitted as a political protest to President Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas war. Uncommitted received 19% of the votes in Minnesota's DFL primary. That's more than the uncommitted received in Michigan's primary. That was at 13%. One of the people who urged Minnesotans to vote uncommitted is Jaylani Hussein. He is the co-founder of the Abandon Biden and Vote Uncommitted Minnesota movement. And Jaylani Hussein joins me now. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All right. This surprised a lot of people that you got that high a percentage. Were you surprised?
I think we were thankfully surprised that that many people came out, but we felt that if we had a little bit more time, we probably even might have had more people than those 46,000 that came out.
You really started just a week beforehand, and there were a number of press conferences calling on the Muslim community to vote uncommitted. But you didn't just have Muslim voters there. You had a lot of other people as well.
Absolutely. You know, we called out for all Minnesotans to vote uncommitted, and we are very thankful that many people came out and voted uncommitted and heard about it very late and still were able to turn out in record numbers. I think that sends a very clear message to President Biden and to all officials that the American community, and particularly Democrats, are fed up with this war and they want it to end now.
I think a lot of people who may have voted uncommitted in no way mean to dismiss what happened on October 7th.
Absolutely.
But people are clearly upset about what is going on. And you've told me before that there are many people who have direct connections, that it's just one person removed. Can you explain that?
Well, there are hundreds of Minnesotans who are every day checking their phone numbers, their phones, to see if they're going to hear or get a message that one of their loved ones have been killed. In Minnesota so far, we believe that hundreds have been killed who are direct relatives to Minnesotans. One family lost nearly 50 people in one strike, and some of them came to the Capitol last week and talked to some legislators. But this impacts right here in Minnesota.
Let's talk about moving ahead to the general election, because you're going to be doing this in the presidential primaries in other states, encouraging people to vote uncommitted. President Trump is no friend to the Muslim community. I mean, he was the one who enacted the Muslim ban in the days of COVID. He has mentioned things about Muslim representatives, that they should go back to their countries when they are in fact American citizens, not only that, elected officials. By supporting this, aren't you, in a sense, just really helping President Trump along in his campaign? Well,
first of all, the uncommitted is more of a protest vote. It's a pretty wide-based vote. But the Abandon Biden campaign, which started really at the heart of the Muslim community, which is also growing, this is more about really a moral stand. You know, one president bans us, another president bombs our community. And so we don't want to be in those positions. We feel that we will be able to make a decision that's in the independent race. And that's something that we will be working on in the rest of the summer.
Well, you've told me that you are actually looking for a third-party candidate to urge people to support, and you've been one of the key organizers in Michigan as well. Isn't a third-party candidate vote going to take away from President Biden's vote?
Absolutely. That's why we're abandoning him. He has been on a path of genocide.
But aren't you concerned about Donald Trump, though, winning the election?
Well, that's the reality. That's the reality we are facing, and that's something we have calculated, and we understand that there's a more than likely chance that if we do abandon Biden, that Trump will be president. We're willing to take that risk to make sure that the Democratic Party and other parties recognize that there are Americans who do not side for genocide and bombing people. That is not an American value, and that's something that has to be really reined in.
So even at the cost of having President Trump, who does have a history of anti-Muslim actions, you support this. In terms of the campaign going forward, are people becoming more and more engaged and upset about what's going on as it continues day after day?
Absolutely. I have never seen my community behave this way. I've never seen so many people galvanized on this issue. When you're seeing 13,000 children being bombed every single day, we're seeing this live. This is one of the worst wars because we are seeing it minute by minute, and we are seeing the failure of our nation and our president.
Does the U.S. effort to expand aid directly to Gaza, this pier that the president is talking about building, bringing aid by sea, does that mitigate at all your feelings on this issue?
Well, I think if we stop bombing, then maybe people can eat. But feeding people while we're still bombing them really doesn't make any sense. We need the immediate permanent ceasefire. That's what the UN has been calling for. That's what the rest of the world is calling for. I think we need to really realize that. And right now, for the first time, we're seeing famine-like death. Masses of people are dying, and that's why we're seeing these aids come in. But the bombs still continue, and Israeli Defense Force are killing people who are seeking food that they're being provided to.
All right. Well, Jaylani Hussein, obviously a surprise and a strong showing in Super Tuesday and in other states as well. Thank you so much. Obviously, we will be following your campaign as it develops.
Thanks for having me, Esme.